This week's portion begins with Teitzei Rabbi Tuvia. This is very important. This week's Torah portion begins with the words, when you go out to war on your enemy. God will put it into your hand. V'shavita shivyo, and you will take a prisoner. There's a very beautiful Ohr HaChaim. We'll learn that this afternoon at 3 o'clock. It says, when you go out to war on your enemy, God will put it in your hands and you will take prisoner. Now, everything that's written in the Torah, of course, has a spiritual counterpart. The Shloah Kodesh says exactly the opposite. The spiritual is written spiritually, and the Torah is the physical counterpart. The main thing of this in spiritual is, oivecha, your enemies. Who are your enemies? What's it telling you to do? To go in your kitchen and get a knife and to go out and make a war against? So who are you supposed to go and make a war against? How is this Torah portion relevant? Right? So you can say, well, listen, I was talking about, if there's a war, or it's history. Says the Rebbe, no. The essence of the Torah is that it's alive every moment, for every time, and every person. Take this personally. Who is your enemy? Your enemy is your body and your natural soul. Your body and your natural soul. It could be your best friend, but it can also be your worst enemy. A person's worst enemy is himself. That's why there's all these psychiatrists and psychologists filled, right? People are depressed and they just tell them, listen, think differently, do it differently. You're messing yourself up. Your whole attitude is wrong. Your past is ruling over your future is ruling over your present. The present is ruling over the past. You're messed up. You're sick. You're terrible. You're awful. You're miserable. You're finished. You're good. Where do all these problems come from? From the person himself. From the person himself. It says that's why a person himself can be his worst enemy. Der Alter Rebbe is mafarish, like the Alter Rebbe explains in Likutei Torah. Right? A lot of times a person's body, he sees something, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life, right? The guy is happily married. All of a sudden he sees another lady or something. This is what I've been living for, the worst thing he could possibly have. People take drugs. This is the meaning in life. I found it. He takes it. I'm so happy. I'm so wonderful. It destroys his whole life, everything he has, because it made his body feel good. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Likutei Torah, was the Zizain and the Emesa Oivim, the true enemy of a person is himself, his own body and his own animal soul. Un men darf oisgehen, you have to go out and make a war against them. No, your body and your animal soul are bad. What are you supposed to do? Listen. The fact is, as the kavana is nit, not brechen sich. It's not to break yourself. Not to break yourself. The Lubavitcher said, Rabbi Rebbe said that my animal soul, my body is bad, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe is a holy person. Therefore, I'm not going to give any attention to my body. No attention to my animal soul whatsoever. I'm going to learn Torah. I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to live in a house. For sure, I'm not going to get married, have children. Worst thing in the world is to pay any attention. Says the Rebbe, that's not the intention at all. You missed the whole point. Nor mivarazim. It means to use them, refine your body, refine your animal soul. Aber from deswegen, nevertheless, nevertheless, this refining is a big war. It's like nowadays, actually, you have in war, right? You have in war nowadays, the main thing is, knowing how to push buttons and knowing how to locate things and how to, right? The foot soldiers are just like to secure a place in the end. But the foot soldiers have all these drones and missiles and lasers and things like that, right? But it's a war. The same thing with us. We have to refine. We have to use our innermost, finest abilities in order to fight this war. But it's a war. And the war is not to kill the enemy, but to refine. If it was possible, that would be wonderful, right? We have a fighting against the Nazis. If it was possible, you had a thing where you could all of a sudden make them say, hey, war is a bad thing. Use your intelligence, use your culture, use your whatever it is, your abilities, instead of putting it into V2 missiles or something like that and trying to find new ways of killing people. Use it for good. Oh, that would be good. If we could transform all the Nazis, that would be wonderful. Transform all these, that would be great, right? Everybody would live, everybody would be happy. Up to now, we haven't done it. Our enemy, our body, our animal soul is in a way worse than the Nazis. Why? Because the Nazis, Hashem Yishmor, they killed Jews. Here a Jew can kill himself and even more. He can make himself do things that kill other Jews, convince other Jews also to go against Hashem too. Hard thing to say, but every single Jew has a little Nazi inside of him. That's the way it goes. But here it's even worse. I remember the Rebbe once said, it's better that the Arabs take the land than we give it to them. It's better that they should win a battle and take the land away from us. It's better than we should give it to them. At least when we give it to them, we know who the enemy is. When they take it, we know who the enemy is. We want to take it back. If we give it to them, then we think, so we become our own worst enemies. The Rebbe once said, I remember, with Camp David, where Begin gave away all this. He said the Arabs never dreamed that he would give anything away. Never. The Jews are their worst enemies. We give into the enemy. We're the only nation in the world that we win all of our wars and we surrender. We win the war. When the 6-Day War, when the Yom Kippur War, we win the war, and then we surrender. So we're worse enemies than our enemies are. Says the Rebbe, to go make war against yourself. Because a person doesn't want to be refined. To fight against yourself, it's a difficult, hard war. Varum the nefesh abamis, because the animal soul agdimo tainaseh. Your animal soul says, what's another name for the animal soul? Another name for the animal soul. There's a one-letter word. One-letter word. Is there any other? I think that's the only one-letter word in English. Maybe, huh? Maybe. No. There's okay. Another one. I. There's also a. Hey, that's another one. I. The animal soul, another word for the animal soul is I. I think. That's me. That's my real me. I'm going to change me. Who's the I that's going to change the me? There's only one me, right? It says, no. It's not so. You also have what we call an intellectual soul. You have a natural, but following your animal soul feels a lot better. Following what your animal soul says, right? It feels a lot better for a while. Then when you start to realize you're not the boss of the world, then you start getting neuroses and psychoses and all sorts of mix-ups and confusions. Nevertheless, the animal soul is the boss. That's me. That's me. And I was here first. This I, that's me, that has desires, I was here first when I was born. I wanted milk. I wanted the comfort. That's me. Of them, and if so, the animal soul, that's the real me. That's who I am. How can I change me? And this, the Torah says, you have to go out to war. Don't sit and wait for your animal soul to tell you what to do. Don't wait for all sorts of urges to come and all sorts of depressions and things like that. Remove your mind from it. Mendarf nor aroiskin. You have to go out and make war. You have to say, I'm going to serve Hashem. I'm a Jew. I'm going to do what Hashem wants. That's it. I'm not going to get angry anymore. I'm not going to be depressed anymore. I'm not going to Don't let the Yetzer Hora come and say, that Tishma, listen, my friend, that's not you. You can be a depressed Jew. You can be a Jew with a bad temper. You can be a Jew that's selfish. No problem. Therefore, you have to go out and make a war. Und demol, Zokte says, if you just make the decision that I am going to fight against my Yetzer Hara, I'm going to do everything I can to ignore it. That's the biggest weapon of all. How do you ignore Yetzer Hara? By thinking about Hashem, thinking about positive things. I got nothing to think about. Oh, that's why we learn Torah. Figure out some ideas that you can think about that are more real and more positive. As then, if you do that, Natno Hashem Elokecha b'yadecha, God will give you victory. As du vest im ein nemen, then you will conquer. Unit chas v'shalom farkert, and the Yetzer Hara will not conquer you. Unochmer, and even more, as vet dir zukommen atosefet, you'll even get an addition. If you fight against your own lower destructive impulses by turning your mind to positive things, good things, then you'll win the battle. You're going on your enemy. You're fighting on the enemy. Then you will even come an addition. V'shavita shivya. You will take prisoners. Was does is the nitzutzos shebiyadivrim agashmim, the physical things that you did, the good deeds that you have, the good, how do you say, the positive things that you have accomplished in life, no matter how small. These are sparks of holiness. For Rav Tavua's B'koach Shor, there's a tremendous advantage in the power of an ox. In other words, if you tame your ox, then you'll see that they'll have new, fresh, positive ideas, positive outlook, a happier life, a more productive life, but you have to fight. The problem is you have to fight, and your big enemy is yourself. And if you don't fight against yourself, there used to be a person in Kfar Chabad, his name was Zusha Vilamovsky. He was called the Partisan. Zusha Vilamovsky. And he used to get along with everybody. He used to go into the government offices. Chabad was never in government. Chabad never got involved in politics in Israel. And as a result, they really didn't have any political power or leverage over anyone. They would never say, if you do this, I'll do that. If you scratch my back, And he used to go into the government offices and he would get, permissions to do this and money for schools and things like that. And he would go sometimes in people that were hated religion, hated these super leftist Zionists, and the rightists sometimes were even worse, right? The religious Zionists were sometimes even worse. They're terrible against, they hated the religious people, something awful. And he got along with everybody. He got along with everyone. And they asked him, how do you get along with everyone? I don't know, how do you do it? And he said, when there's a war inside, then there's no war outside. There's peace outside. When there's a war inside, when you fight against yourself and realize that your own worst enemy are your thoughts and your negative ideas, when you fight a battle inside, then there's peace outside. Okay, now should we say a story? 1 second.